What's going on?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
I would have been here on time, but I had to stop and win an Any along the way. So,
Oh,
yeah, they're just giving them out out
me
there.
too.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming. This is How to Stream Your Tabletop Games. My name is Carlos Luna. I am the content producer at Roll20, and these are my friends and coworkers. Why don't you
Hello.
introduce yourselves?
My name tag says my name is Repeat Questions. Hello, my name is Repeat Questions. No, I'm Adam Coble. I am the game master in residence at Roll20. I'm a full-time broadcaster. I'm the co-creator of a role-playing game called Dungeon World.
And I'm Stephanie Bryant. I am the Scrum Master at Roll20. Sometimes I stream workshops about how to DM on Roll20, and I long ago wrote video blogging for dummies.
Cool. So we will be going over exactly that, how to stream your tabletop games. I wanted to start first with the great philosophical question. Why do you want to stream your tabletop games? Yes, that is a handful of cash. An awesome...
How dare you use that picture of me?
wait, are you saying that you were the
I-
kid
I'm
from
not-
Blank Check?
I'm not sure if, I'm either the kid from Blank Check or I'm Aristotle, so
Yes.
whichever. It's fine.
I love it. I love the kid from Blank Check. What happened to him? Is he still doing good? Probably not, right?
This is a panel, Carlos, not the pre-show for Jace Bellerin Must Die. Anybody want to talk about ska?
Yeah, I love Scott. Why do you want to stream your tabletop games? I think there's a bunch of different reasons why you might want to. You might want to because you're getting into other things and you want to try it out. And Roll20 is a great place to show off the work that you've been doing. And everything is kind of built in there, right? You don't need a Zoom account. You can just use our webcam interface. You don't have to get another top-down webcam to show what you physically built, right? You can show the page that you've been building. Yeah, what else, guys?
I feel like showing off is my main reason for streaming games
Yeah.
too. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's the question of like we're seeing a lot of streaming content in the tabletop space. It's getting bigger and bigger every year. There are more and more shows and podcasts and various YouTube channels all dedicated to creating tabletop content. Maybe you see that and you're like, that looks like fun. I would like to do that. I think that's like the core basic reason. But you can make a business out of it too. Like I have. You can run games and you can build subscriber base and you can collaborate with other broadcasters, and it can be, like Carlos said, like a first step into a bigger world. That's definitely a reason to do it.
Yeah, and you could also, you yourself, like if you want to dip your toe into it, you don't have to start your own channel, your own thing. You can go on other people's shows, other people's channels. That's how I got started.
So for me, the reason isn't gobs of cash, although that would be nice. But actually, I'm part of a role-playing game community that specifically helps new role players and new GMs. So a lot of what I do is for training new GMs on how to play or run their games. So I'm the Aristotle over there because I'm doing it largely to educate and inform. And then I also stream games that are in playtesting that I'm, we're ramping up for a Kickstarter or we're, trying out the mechanics just to see like how people respond to it and to get the word out about something that's new coming up. So it's a little less entertaining and a little bit more edutaining.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. That maybe you're doing it because you have a game that you want other people to know how to play. Maybe you have some niche RPG that you would like to build a player base for. Maybe you think it's the coolest game you ever played and you want everybody else to play it too. And so you want to show off how it's done. Or maybe you have some players that you think would be a really great way to spread the word of that game. Maybe it's your game, maybe it's somebody else's. I think the idea of doing like skill sharing is pretty popular in YouTube and in social media. So just doing a thing because you know how to do it and you want to share that, I think that's a really valid reason too.
Yeah, showing off that experience, and especially showing it off not only to the people playing the game, but the people watching the game can give you feedback in real time. It might not be the best feedback that you want at that time while you're playing a game, but there's value in that, right? There's value in, and because strangers will be playing your games, so having strangers tell you in real time, like, hey, this looks fun, or hey, I would change this, or this is a little confusing, like that can definitely help you, especially when you're in the planning stages of your game.
Yeah, I stream most of my GM prep for the various games, and then for Roll20 Presents and for Jace Beller and Must Die, both those shows I'm producing from my view in Roll20. So the audience, and this has become like a thing we've had to train the audience and the mods to do, they can all see all of the background stuff. So when the players walk into a trap, the audience knows it's coming, sometimes weeks in advance because they've seen the prep. But for me, what's really fun about that is sharing that with chat and with the audience and saying like, okay, we all know what's coming. Here's the rest of the map. Don't tell the players. It's going to be great. So sharing that dramatic irony and then sharing the tips and tricks. Like there are tons and tons of times, both in the tool set in Roll20 and just with role-playing games in general, where I'll do something without really thinking about it because it's just normal for me. Like I'll use the ruler tool to create a path for characters' movement. And inevitably someone in chat is like, wait a second, what? How do you do that? And it's like, well, you just pick up your token. And then
Sometimes it's in game.
Yeah.
Like we play and you'll start doing something. And Masood the other day, like a week ago, was just like, wait, what? Like how? And then you're so good at it, and you're so fast that like we'll take the story, like your players will take the story in places you were not expecting. And we'll just be in a scene doing small talk, and Adam will just build an entire scene just like off the top of his head. And I don't know what's happening because I can't see the GM side of it. And he'll just like turn it on, and it's like, we're there, we're in the room, these are the bad guys. And I'm just like, you couldn't do that fast in real time at a table.
So Carlos has brought it all the way back around to my original point about how I just do it to show off.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Carlos.
Yeah, no problem. I'm reading off your notes that you sent me earlier today.
Every page is like, tell them how smart I am, Carlos.
Yeah, I have to end every sentence with adamcobalt.com. It's very strange. So yeah, what do you want to stream? Now, are you interested in just the game and a camera, the game and several cameras because you have multiple players, or the game, one camera, and remote cameras? So sometimes I record with Rivals of Waterdeep on Sundays, and we're all in one room, all in one space, and we have multiple cameras. But then, I do Jace Bellerin, and we're all satellite. We're all in different places, webcamming in. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today is a lot of tech stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because that's why we figure you guys are here. Like, the tech stuff of like, how is this set up? How do you actually run this? Can I run this, or do I have to invest thousands of dollars? And I think we're all different levels of streamers up here. So hopefully you can find which way you want to work, which direction you want to work. Real quick, who has streamed a game on Roll20 to Twitch or wherever? Nolan, thank you, Nolan. Great. So who wants to? A lot of you. Yes, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Cool. So yeah, let's talk about the game, or let's talk about those pretty overlays that you see, because a lot of you might be interested in that and might not know, like, how does that happen? Like, I see the faces, and then I see lightning on the side, or they have a nice little frame box, and you don't know how they get the face in the box, right? Like, what magic is that? And it's Photoshop. I invented
Magic
Photoshop.
of Photoshop.
I invented Photoshop. So you're going to need some type of graphic design skills, or you'll purchase some type of overlay. There's a bunch of sites that you can purchase from. You could also ask your buddy who knows how to use Photoshop to make you some PNGs.
So expect my email next week.
Yeah, and sometimes you can bother your coworkers until they finally
Right?
get you the overlays the day before the stream.
Yeah,
Oh,
while
goodness.
on stage in front of a bunch of people. It's a good
right.
time to ask. So yeah, basically you're gonna make artwork, and the blank space where you see those checkered empty areas, that's where you're gonna be putting your webcams or your artwork or your game. You're going to be putting it behind here.
Yeah, what you're looking at when you're looking at a live stream of a role-playing game is generally several layers of stuff on top of each other. So whatever the biggest thing, it's often the bottom layer, and then there are cameras and an overlay, and sometimes additional effects that get built up on top of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like the best way to describe. It'd be like if this was an overlay. I created a circle with a stroke around it, and I made this part invisible. Right, put your hand right through it, and I wanted to take this webcam image of myself. That's a square, and if I put it behind it, you can definitely see what's in the center now. You don't see what's on the corners because the image is actually blocking it. And that's what you're seeing on these Twitch channels. You're seeing images that they made, and they cut out pieces so they can drop other pieces behind them. Kind of like a sandwich, I guess.
Twitch, it's like a sandwich.
Twitch. That was their original tagline that they had on the site for years.
Yeah.
I don't know why they changed it.
Twitch.tv, it's like a sandwich. Take a
Twitch.tv.
bite.
Twitch.sandwich. So an example of this would be, okay, here's your game. Here's your Roll20 browser. And you have that up on the screen. And then you open up some type of streaming software. Streaming software like XSplit or OBS. XSplit costs money, right?
There's a license fee for XSplit.
Okay. And OBS is free. I use OBS. You use XSplit, right?
I use XSplit, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I use OBS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different levels.
Well, I have both because every once in a while something will happen in XSplit that makes me have to use OBS for a hot minute, and then I switch back.
Yeah.
So especially with capturing like game windows and stuff, and you might find that you'll want to use like a different browser or a different you'll
Yeah.
run some tests to make sure it works because there's little finicky bits and pieces here and there.
Lots of tests, actually, yeah. And there'll be things like, oh, it worked before I closed it, and then you'll open it up the next time and like all screwed up, something you won't be able to select.
2 words: Windows Update.
Yes, every single time. Yeah, and just when you think you're safe, it's like, oh, I have no audio now.
Yeah, suddenly everyone's cameras are just off.
Yes.
I'm like, cool, thanks Windows, you're the best, Bill Gates.
You're the best. So yeah, you have your game open in a browser, and I'm going to use the example of OBS in this situation. So you have your browser open, and then let's say we split screen that, right? Where we have OBS on the left and we have our browser on the right-hand side. I'm not going to get into the details of OBS and how it works, but you could imagine there's different things you can select, right? You can select browsers, you can select media, you can select images, text, whatever you want to build to make this scene, OBS allows you to select. And in this situation, you would just select window capture, right? We want to capture the Roll20 window. And that's exactly what we do. So on the left-hand side, you see there's a little box there. There's a little drop-down that shows me all the open windows I can choose from. And I chose the Chrome application that's, the Stranger Things game. It's relatively simple to explain when you use it over and over again. As I'm saying this out loud, it might be really confusing. We are taking questions at the end of this, for sure. So definitely have your questions ready at the end.
Both XSplit and OBS have either in-house or fan-made tutorials on how to capture stuff and how to set up windows. And if you run into problems, generally someone else also has run into that problem, and it's fairly easy to get support on that stuff. The basics are I find that the first 95% of getting something set up is all easy, and then ironing out the last 5% is the part that can be tricky. So what we want to give you is that base to work from to kind of start doing this yourself.
I think it's important to remember that your first stream does not need to look like Adam's stream.
Yes.
Adam's first stream does not look like
Oh.
his current first stream.
Is that
How
anywhere?
dare you?
Yeah, how dare you, sir?
Actually, well, it's not really fair because my first streams were on Roleplay, which is like a highly produced show anyway. So I don't have any.
I take
Okay,
it back.
okay,
I take it back. I meant no shade, but
So once
No, I
again,
mean,
your
you-
stream will not be like
but it's important to know that the first time you do anything is the first time that you did it. It's new. It's raw. It may not look perfect and polished, and that is okay because you're it's going to grow. You're going to get better. It's just, you just have to like be willing to, I hate to say this, but you have to be willing to suck for a little bit,
Yeah.
and then get better and improve.
Well, and you don't have to do it.
know.
You don't have to do the first few streams like out in the open with an audience.
Yeah, that
right?
too.
Like run, like get it all set up and run a one shot as if you had an audience and just local record it and then go back and see how it looks and like tweak it from there and until you have something that you're ready to turn on for your real audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And realizing that like practice doesn't make perfect. I don't even know where that came from. Practice
Some kind of jerk.
Some kind of jerk that got it right the second time around.
I hate that guy.
Practice makes practiced.
Practice makes progress, right? Like you're going to progress as you keep doing this like over and over again. And this is actually, I'm going over this quickly because we don't have that much time, but this is probably one of the easier setups to do. Open up OBS, choose what window you're using, and bam, you're off to the races. And a lot of that is just because you're using Roll20 and you can use the webcam sound feature in Roll20 and it'll go automatically to Twitch. So you won't have to deal with third-party software like Zoom or Google Chat and like reorganizing that. Like you'll have it all built into the browser. So if you want it to stream today, to have your game and to have the video and audio from your game, you can do that this is probably the easiest setup with the least amount of problems.
That's right. You can do it right now. Get up out of this room, run back to your hotel, get your stuff, get on a plane, go home.
Look under your seats. There's iPhones for everyone here. Yeah, where was I? I don't know. I was just thinking.
Meanwhile,
I was just thinking about the logistics of getting all those iPhones here. So yeah, that is the easiest way. If we're looking at the game, a lot of you might be wondering, oh, how do they get? Some people get the map in the background, and some people get the chat with the roles and stuff in there too. Like, how do they get that? And how do they separate it? I use two browser windows. One for
pop that thing out.
Yeah, just our chat pops out. So just pop that out, resize it, and set it up the same way you would set up your map. It makes it a lot more flexible. You're able to move that around. Because as I resize what's on the right-hand side, that chat, that roll window, it will resize on the left-hand side as well, that view. So you're going to have to play around with like, okay, well, what size should it be? And these are things that are just going to make your stream like look better, like look prettier.
Real quick, does everybody know that you can pop out the chat window, and do you know how? Yes? Okay, good. You double-click it. If you did not know, you double-click it, and it'll pop right up. So very important pieces of information. I know those little shortcuts we were just talking about, like they make things go smoother.
It's also a really useful way of answering, hey, where did the chat go?
Yeah, that's the other good question.
I can't roll. What happened? All right, what did you click?
Yes.
How many times did you click it?
Okay, cool. Let's go over equipment real quick. There's a few different types of equipment that you can use. Let's talk about video setup, webcams, DSLR camera, DSLR cameras, and like full frame mirrorless cameras. All different types of things that are involved there. Obviously, when webcam is going to be your cheapest entry point. There are a lot of good webcams. They're not going to give you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's a weird thing. I talked about this a little bit in an earlier streaming panel. There's a gap where there is a level of gear that's about $100 to $150 per piece, and that's where most people stop because the next level of gear is like 5 times that much more money. Right, the difference between C920, which is a great webcam, and I used it for the first year that I streamed, and then the next thing in quality, which is like a mirrorless camera and a capture card for it and all that, you're going to see a huge jump. There's a middle market that companies like Elgato are kind of trying to fill with more like affordable camera equipment or audio equipment, but we're not necessarily there yet, but it's something that's developing very quickly. So if you find yourself hitting that threshold, like keep an eye on companies that make that kind of gear and see what they're coming out with, because they're trying to fill in that gap between the Micro Four Thirds or the full frame mirrorless and then the 920. Or the 900.
And knowing that gear, right? Because the newest stuff isn't necessarily the best stuff for you to stream in your room, right? Like low light capabilities isn't probably high on your priority. Like you're not going to be streaming in the dark. Hopefully, you'll have some type of light.
I stream exclusively at f 1.2. It's like 64,000 ISO.
Yeah, I just like this part in focus. This
Yeah,
part of my
exactly. Yeah,
nose.
just a needle thin, just my pupils,
The
and I want to be
only-
grainy as hell.
The only light is coming from my monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want it creepy. And that's the difference in look, right? So like webcam doesn't necessarily mean like bad quality or anything. There's a specific look that you might have in mind that is coming from glass, right? Adam just mentioned like that depth of field. That's a big part of it, right? Like you could have glass, but it looks like a webcam, right?
When Carlos says glass, he means lenses.
Lenses, yeah, sorry.
We're just being photography dorks
I
and
don't
not
know
doing
if
a
you
very good job.
know, but yeah, like there are and they're knowing what type of camera you want for streaming specifically, because if you're trying to save money, you don't need $1,000 camera.
Yeah, the thing is you can get a lot of mileage out of like a Logitech C900 or C920 if you light yourself properly and you set up your room correctly, right? Like a lot of it can just be about organizing the space that you're in, and that's double true for audio. We'll talk about that more when we get there.
Yeah.
My camera is that Logitech that you've got up there on the screen, and I think it cost me less than $50.
Yeah, it's on
So-
sale like all the time.
Yeah,
It's a great
It's
camera.
terrific. It's a 1080p camera, and like,
Yeah.
I look good enough. People aren't tuning in because I'm so beautiful. I mean, some are, but but no, I mean they're tuning in for the content, not for me. So like the camera isn't as important to my stream.
It's very important to me because I'm
It is
very,
because
very,
you are
very-
very beautiful,
Yeah, it's true.
Adam. So
I need to give the fans what they want.
you do. You gotta shake your moneymaker.
Give the fans what they want. AdamCobalt.com. Sign up for the mailing list. Next slide. Audio setup. I think audio is important. Like I just do. I
This
love
just
audio.
in, Carlos thinks we need to breathe air to live.
I really do. I think audio is so important. I think you can have, like, I think YouTube proves it. I think you could have grainy audio and like grainy video and good audio, and people will sit and watch your videos. I think we get used to visual things, like, I think we get used to watching things visually and think that's a style. I think we'll never get used to audio because some things are harsh, some things are hard to hear, some things are noisy, and it's just harder to take in.
Can I ask you a question real quick, audience of ours? So I assume, do you watch like role-playing content on YouTube or Twitch? Yeah, okay. How many of you do other things while you watch that? Like play MMOs or work? Yeah, right. So a lot of the time, people are not going to be devoting 100% of their eyeball time to what you're doing. You're going to be alt-tabbed, you're going to be on another monitor, they're going to be playing Final Fantasy XIV, and they're going to look over or alt-tab back in when they hear that there is something to look at, but they're going to be listening to you all the time. So bad audio is going to have someone bounce off your stream a lot more quickly than if somebody isn't like lit perfectly or doesn't have like great depth of field in their webcam or whatever. You can get by with really good audio because I think the way people absorb that content is pretty different.
Well, we also, if you think about the technology itself, we've been broadcasting audio for a very long time. Certainly, much longer than we've broadcast video, and so people have, culturally developed an intolerance to static, and we've an intolerance to background noise that we don't have as much of in broadcast video. So there's sort of that historical, like, we're less tolerant of those audio artifacts. So I agree that audio is like investing in the good microphone is the place to put the money.
Yeah, and you can start off by investing just in your headset or a USB mic that you can plug in. You can get, those prices fluctuate all the time. And every year it sounds like there's, a USB mic that is just as good as like an XLR, like analog mic. It happened, like that's been getting better and better. If you want to invest a little bit more money, you can go these other two routes, which are condenser microphones with a mixer and
I hear Ninja uses a mixer now. You like that?
Is that
Thanks. Yeah.
just drop that in there. Yeah. So like, there's gonna be almost everything that costs a little bit money. A little bit more money comes with other things that cost a little bit more money, right? So
Yeah, I mean, bottlenecking is a thing that happens with tech where you will be like, I have this awesome webcam, and now my CPU can't produce a stream at 1080p, so I got to upgrade the CPU. And then you're like, well, now my bandwidth won't support a 1080p 60 stream out, so I got to upgrade my bandwidth. And then the audio isn't great, and so you got to upgrade that, and then you got to get a compressor because the mic is too good now, and now you peak when you're loud, so you got to get a mixer. And so this thing can happen where you just feel the need to acquire Band-Aids, but with a USB mic and a decent webcam, you can just be like, this is good, and not have to worry about that other stuff, right? Like, there is a base level of quality you can get by on for a very long time before you become a neurotic obsessive like me and start like buying expensive cords because you're like, this is the thing. This will make it better.
do you buy expensive cords?
Yeah, there
Do
are
you
a few.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
wow. I used to go down there. Now it's just
I
cheap
know,
Amazon
but I can't.
stuff.
It's I can hear the slight
Really?
hiss in the
Oh,
audio, and I
okay.
can't stand it.
Or the soundproofing of your room.
Oh, I got
Yeah.
foam.
Yeah.
I got corrugated foam
you
on
put the
everything.
foam up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a musician, so the same thing happens in music. You just kind of, next thing you know, you've got like 3 mixer boards, and you're like, I just need one more chord and a pedal. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you don't need to do any of that BS. You can get by on especially when you're starting, get by on the
And
base stuff.
and honestly, if you don't know all of this, I mean, it's probably a good sign that you're not ready to upgrade to those things, because you'll start eyeing this stuff for a long time. When you're eyeing this stuff all the time and you're tracking prices, then it's probably time to start upgrading that type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a massive, massive subsection of the internet in general, but also YouTube, of people who like reviewing equipment like this.
I love
So
them.
if you look up the name of a product and the word review, you will have hours of varying quality content to let you know exactly what is good or bad about a piece of equipment. But you can also start to, and this is the thing I think that broadcasters, we like to brag about how we got to where we're at in terms of gear. Like, we like talking about lighting and stuff. And so there's lots of streamer tutorials about that kind of stuff too, in that specific way.
And the one thing else I will say about these microphones is choose it on how you will be using it, I guess. Like, if you stream alone, get a condenser mic. It's going to sound better. You're going to be able to it's going to have more flexibility. It's going to have more depth to it. But like, Adam streams alone, but I stream with like 5 people in the room sometimes.
Yeah.
And if we all had condenser microphones, we're all loud improvisers from Chicago. They would all pick up, and it would be useless. I also record the audio separately, and I edit it later for like podcasts. If you want that type of flexibility, you're going to need a different interface. So the 2 differences in the microphones you would pick would be like these a condenser or like a dynamic microphone, like one of those stage mics that you see. So if you're going to record with a group, I can't stress that enough, to just get a dynamic stage microphone. Those are fantastic. Cool. Routing signals. So if you are not going the webcam way, webcams plug in through a USB. You're going to need some type of a capture card, or if you have, if you want to get fancy, you can get a little bit fancier, right? If you have more than one camera, you can use that one capture card. And I've used a splitter on multi-cameras. Have you ever used a splitter on multi? Yeah. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. Some people think that they have to buy like the $3,000 Blackmagic interface so they can switch between camera 1 and camera 2. You do not have to do that at all. You can buy a $100 splitter off Amazon and just push that
Click the
button.
button.
Yeah, push that button yourself. You don't need all that fancy.
Your first
gear.
game is not the Super Bowl. You'll be okay. Unless it is, in which case, what are you doing here?
It's like camera 2. We're going to be going on 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, you're live. Yeah, you're probably not going to be using all that. You are going to need a capture card on it could be an external one or an internal one that goes into your computer. They will be USB 3, so make sure you do have that if it's external. And then you could have like a multi-input capture card too, which is a bunch of different problems. You do everything external, right? You do. You have
I
like-
do, yes. Well, I used to. I have an internal. I upgraded my internal card so I can capture 1440p. There's no external card that can do that, but I ran off of external Magewell cards for years.
Yeah. Cool. Other important thing, lighting. You don't need super expensive lighting to be like to start off, you know. Look again, like look up some simple YouTube tutorials on lighting. You can get by with some bulbs, some DIY stuff. You don't need to. You could, like, obviously the Elgato $200 light that they have, like key light, that's cool.
Yeah, like they're expensive, but they're not even like that good. Like you can get photography lights or videography lights that are just as good for way less. The thing about lighting and why it's important is because if you think about it, the fundamental thing that photography or videography, the use of a camera is doing is capturing light. Placement of the light, how close or far away from it is from your face, which I assume is the thing you're trying to capture. Close and far away, the color of the light, right? Whether it's warm or cool, that's going to be as much, if not more important than the camera that you're using to capture it. A well-lit subject with a lower quality camera is better than a poorly lit subject and a better camera.
And a lot of time that grain that you can get from a webcam could be because of low light, right?
Yes.
It's overcompensating.
The Logitech webcams especially are light hungry. Like a lot of people will get them, start using them and be like, I think mine's defective. And it's like, no, your room is just dark.
Yeah.
If you're properly lit, they are workhorses.
And the background, don't ignore your background too. Like your background can help your image pop, right? So if you're wearing a black shirt and the background's black, then like, yeah, you're gonna blend in with that. And the webcam might be hunting for those distinctions too, to like brighten it up.
I was on a studio show once, and the notes that I got over email was like for wardrobe was, don't wear anything dark. And I was like, are you gonna buy me new clothes? Or like how about dark gray? Can we do that? Yeah.
I was doing a show once, and a guy it was in front of a green screen, and a guy showed up with a green shirt.
Awesome.
And he was just a floating head. They didn't know what to do with him.
I remember the days when you weren't allowed to wear stripes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Moira effect is
Moira
very
effect
real.
is
I have a shirt
terrible.
I can't wear on stream
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
That happens all the time. And you'll get this weird like magic eye effect if you wear like tight checkered patterns
Yep.
Yeah.
and lines. Like it'll just look really
Strange.
what did you call the effect?
Moira.
Moira.
Yeah.
Moira. I like
It's
that.
like it's the weird. You know it if you saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Let's look at setups. Stephanie's setup.
Okay, so I mentioned that I have the cheapo Logitech camera webcam. So that's perched on top of monitor 1, which is where my main, like the Roll20 board would be. And then monitor 2, which, by the way, I only just got like a couple months ago. I'm so happy to now have 2 monitors.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah, right.
It's great.
So monitor 2 is where I would have OBS. And the reason I have OBS open over there is twofold. One is I like to be able to see and make sure things are what I want to be showing. But then also right behind it and next to it, I'll have the Twitch chat going. Because since I'm doing workshops, I want to be able to see questions as they come in. My headset is a Logitech, I want to say it's a 135 or something like that. They don't even make it anymore. It's 6 or 7 years old. It is wired to USB. I never want to run out of batteries in the middle of a stream or a meeting, and I am on that headset slightly more than 8 hours a day. Not streaming, just for work. And I don't want to get to the end of the day and need to take my headset off and charge it. So I went with a wired one. And then I have this really cool desktop computer that Jeff back in the back there spec'd out for me because he's smart and brilliant. And it's got a good memory, good graphics card. It's got decent memory. It's got a decent hard drive, and it's wired directly to the internet through Ethernet, not Wi-Fi. Again, I never want to deal with like a wireless signal when I'm streaming. It's just one more failure point I don't want to deal with. So yeah,
As far
that's,
as
yeah.
building a PC for streaming goes, there's like a lot of different stuff that goes into it. It used to be that rendering was basically reliant on a good CPU, and it's still true that you want to have a good CPU as your primary thing if you're rendering video for streaming. But if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, and I know XSplit does this, but I'm not sure if OBS does, they can use the graphics card to help, and that's really useful. It takes some of the strain off of the CPU.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think OBS just did an
Yeah,
update.
they can do it now?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
they just did
yeah.
an update. to
My
use the
my
card.
computer is about a year old, and it was really good. Jeff, you did a good build.
My streaming PC is 6 years old.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's still fine.
yeah, like the CPUs and the graphic cards today they're so powerful. I mean, you know, you can process your video pretty quickly. So I like those. My lag between what I say and what shows up on OBS is like a second. So
Do not
it's
try to
pretty
stream
good.
while you are mining Bitcoins. It will not work. But honestly, like cut down the amount of stuff that's running on your PC to the bare minimum while you're streaming, because
Oh, yeah.
every tiny little bit of CPU helps get that video out better and faster.
Yeah, and turn off notifications. So this is something that annoys
Oh,
me in
yeah.
Microsoft, is that my notifications, which includes my text messages and Hangouts and everything else, pop up in the bottom right corner. So on the main screen, I will also resize my windows so that it will not have that notification pop up, because what I really don't need is for somebody to be watching my stream, you know, the 4 people that watch my stream, to find out that my husband wants me to pick up milk on my way home or something.
How's your stream going, sweetie?
Yeah, you know, like
I sometimes forget, even to this day, when I create a new Roll20 account, not to turn off background chat beep. So
Right.
so we'll be on a commercial break, and I'll be running the music, and everything will be fine, and somebody will be in chat just spamming rolls to like test out their new weapon macro, and she's like whoop 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 whoop, and I'm like players.
So yes, so there's a lot of little things like that you learn over time, I guess.
Or you don't learn if you're me.
you know,
just never learn.
Time and errors, and at some point I'll talk about exposing my email to the internet that way. So Carlos.
What I love about let's go to the next slide real quick. What I love about these slides and these setups, they show like 3 different levels of streaming, and but the slides themselves get worse as we move on. So as we go up, we're visually going down. So Stephanie's brilliant, and then we're gonna go to mine. It's okay to chuckle here, but just make sure you laugh.
wait.
Just make sure you laugh loud when you go to adamcobalt.com. So my setup's a little bit different. I shoot 2 cameras in my living room. I just throw up one of those pop-up green screens in the back of a couch, or you know, a 2-seater, and I'll combine those 2 cameras together to make it seem like both cameras are in the same place. I do not have a second computer to stream to, so I do everything inside my one computer. And like I'll sit in the living room and I'll have like 4 or 5 microphones, and I'll control it with my television actually. So I have a cable running around the baseboard to my main television in my living room that goes to my computer, so I'm able to handle everything from that area. As far as external things, like an actual external compressor or a noise reducer, stuff like that, I use software for that. So everything is done in real time on my computer. Again, I am using two cards, and I am not like gaming on this computer when I do, well, not gaming in traditional like video game like Steam or something. I'm using Roll20, and I'm able to do all that in one PC without any problems at all. And let's go to...
Hold on to your butts.
Get ready for this. I love this because I was just like, hey, Adam, can you send me your setup? And you're like, oh, yeah, sure. And
It's so simple. Anyone could do it.
okay, so first of all, he sends this to me. I had to add the color myself because I was like, we're going to be in front of a bunch of people. But you also didn't add your camera.
I forgot the camera. Yeah, the setup was so complicated that I was like, "This has got to be everything." Here, this is it. And then Carlos was just like, "There's a camera in here somewhere. Let's just throw it in there."
I'm like, it's probably over there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of equipment that I use to broadcast, and most of it though is connected to either an input or output chain for audio or for video, either coming in to me or going out to the internet. I have two different PCs. One whose only job it is to process and render the information that it is given from the other PC and from the various peripherals and package that up and make content for you. And then the other PC is what I run Roll20 on. And I just do a full-on capture as if it were a game console. So everything that's happening on that screen gets made into a video feed and processed over to my other computer.
And that way you know what is being sent out is actually perfect.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that could like mess that up. The signal is going straight into one box. Like there's nothing like that can mess that up actually.
Yeah, and the use of two PCs and the mixer and the way that I've got everything rigged allows me to do things like play music to the stream and have the cast still be able to talk to each other, but the stream can't hear them talking. It lets me talk to the cast without the stream hearing it. So I can do things like run up music and I can say, all right, everybody, we got a minute, we got 30 seconds. I can do a count in, we can do the thing, I can fade the music out. It allows me a level of professionalism from a production standpoint that it's a tiny little thing like running music before the stream that takes all of this stuff to make it possible. And that's just kind of where we're at. Like at a certain level as a broadcaster, you are a one-person production company. And sometimes this is the solution to get those little tiny details, that last 5%.
And there's different ways to go about that too.
Yeah.
Like there is software that you can use, like Voice Meter Banana. That'll be able to reroute signals inside your own computer. I use that all the time. You could also invest in, if you don't want a mixer, you could invest in a multi-input interface. You know, do you use one? You use a two interface for your audio?
I use a
Focusrite 2
like
I
a
2
8-channel mixer.
8-channel.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So wait, what do you use? What is it?
I can't remember what brand it is, but I have a channel for the PC for audio in. I have a channel for audio in from the secondary PC.
And this is going into just the mixer.
This goes
though.
into the mixer.
What's
and
what interface do you use for that?
like the physical interface?
Yeah. Is it like a 2-channel interface, or is the mixer itself?
The
plugs
mixer
right in?
itself plugs. Yeah.
Okay, but it only sends one signal in.
It signals, one signal out to
Gotcha.
the stream PC. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, aside from like the monitor. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, this is really complicated.
Yeah.
Here's one thing that, I'll actually let you know that I was debating. Your camera's probably on the other side of that monitor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. but the lines don't add up to the other side of the monitor, so
Yeah.
I didn't throw it there.
That's right,
That's
yeah.
just something I wanted to let you know. So, anyways, we have a couple more minutes. We'll take a few questions from you. This guy in the back. Ooh.
You can mount
Repeat the
the
question?
mic. You can mount the mic that you have now. Sorry, yes. Hello, my name is Repeat Questions.
Yeah.
I forgot my name for a second. So the question was about upgrading for a mic from like a Yeti or a USB mic to a wireless or a lav mic or other options. The thing I wanted to mention is you don't have to necessarily upgrade your mic. Before I had the setup that I have now, I had that same mic, and I mounted it because I had the same bonking problem where if it's on and you touch your desk, it makes this awful noise. You can mount it on a mic arm. I bought a Rode mic arm for like $120, and you can stick it on the end of that, and it'll absorb the shock of the typing, and that'll help.
A stage mic with a boom arm too. If you
Yep.
don't even want it touching your table,
That's
will
true.
work.
You can get a mic stand, and
That'd be $30 for you
Yeah.
right there.
That's
If
true.
you're looking to do a lav, lavs are different. You can use, obviously they can range in price up to like $300, $500 or whatever. You can get the Rode Smart Lav. It is $65 $5, I want to say. You will have to buy 2 attachments for it. One is a TRS link, and the other one is an XLR input for it. That is $25, and the other one is $12. So you're coming close to around $100 for that. You will also need to use some type of noise suppression and some type of compressor too. I think a stand, it'll sound a lot better than the lav. I do understand that the reason I know the answer to that question is because I've been down there, and I would recommend just getting a stand. It will sound a million times better.
So you don't.
I just bought a boom
Yeah.
stand for my mic again for music, and it was like $30 on Amazon. So they shipped it to me. It came in a box. I was like, how do you? I mean, I expected I'd have to go someplace specific, right? And it was just
The space,
Right
the space
there.
that you're in will dictate the equipment that you want to have too.
That's
Like I
true.
don't have room in my office for a separate mic stand, so it has to be part of my desk, and it comes up and over rather than from the side for me.
Okay, let's take one more question. Actually, we got to wrap this. Yeah. Yeah. Is it just you, or is it multiple people? Okay. Multiple people. How good do you want it to sound? Multi-track editing is what I do. So I'll use an interface that takes like 8 inputs, and it'll record on my audio software. So you can record in like Reaper or Pro Tools or Audition. It'll do 8 tracks, 8 separate tracks, 1 for each person. And then I'll go through and I'll edit out, someone breathing into the microphone, false starts. A lot of times we start talking and then someone cuts us off. So what would I recommend? The Focusrite 18i20. It's a $400 interface. You could also buy the Zoom H6, which is actually actually that would be my recommendation. The Zoom H6, it'll allow you to do 4 at one time. You can put an attachment on it that allows you to do 2 extra. It's probably around $300, and it is as big as your phone. So you can take it to conventions like this and put a microphone on top of it and do interviews.
If you're recording like I do a single input, like you're recording a stream that's like video and audio all as one thing. XSplit at least, and I'm sure OBS too, has options for simultaneous broadcast and local record. You can set them differently, so you can broadcast at one frame rate and resolution and local record at a different one. If you are doing that, it'll put a little bit more load on your CPU, but it's possible. It's just built into the software. I just have my computer automatically record as I am broadcasting, not as a separate thing. So whatever we're streaming at, that's what I'm recording, and then I just cut that up in Premiere.
There's software to send the signals too, depending on if you're on Windows, VB, it's free software. VB Cables, it's called. And if you're on a Mac, Soundflower, they'll be able to send different signals, different way. Yeah, I think we're out of time.
I've
right
also used on Twitch, when you are streaming, it can save your stream, so it'll save your show. And I have gone back and taken the show and taken it down off of Twitch, edited it so I don't sound stupid, and then or don't show my email publicly on my stream, and then posted it back up because I didn't want to have PII up on my screen. So yeah.
Awesome. Guys, it's been great. Thank you for coming out. We have to let the next panel in. Remember, visit www.adamcobel.com.
Right. Also,
he needs those clicks.
the next panel is just kind of our general about
Yeah.
Roll20. So please stay and hang around if you want to hear what we're doing, what we're up to next. And before you leave, please help yourself
Yes.
to one of the Pathfinder maps in the back. It includes a code to get that map on Roll20.
And it's huge,
Sick.
too. It's like the size of a poster.
It's
Just,
great.
Yeah, just pick it up. Cool.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.